Hello, world. What's up? Welcome to Build. Oh, I'm your host, Matt Forte. We're here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Oh, man, our next guest is a super versatile singer-songwriter who consistently brings both experimental ambition and a melodic pop sense to her work. Her new EP, Smut, is out this Friday. The spatial and ambient electronics are ever present, but the melodies, lyrics, and instrumentation across the EP are uplifting and energized. The super crazy, awesome, talented Sarah Jaffe is here. How about that, folks? Make some noise for Sarah. I'm so excited you're here and excited to talk to you. But that video, I love that video. The brilliance is in its simplicity. I remember every single thing that's happening in that video.
Same.
Yeah, which kind of dates me a little bit, right? Like, we were just talking about all the different things that came packaged with like 95 and 98.
It came with a Weezer Buddy Holly video. Well, but it was also, was it Windows 98 maybe?
I thought it was 95. I thought it was 95. Anybody else who's old like me in the room remember if it was Windows 95 or 98?
The other song was, I can't remember Paul Simon.
That's all. That's as far as I go. I, for some reason, can't remember that. But I remember, like I said, the Count of Monte Cristo or Cristo or whatever the heck it is. The trailer for that. Well, because at the time it was like computers can play videos now.
Yes.
So here's whoever we paid to put on this disc, and that was it. And then hovercraft was one of those things.
My favorite.
It was a simpler time.
Much simpler. And I also just didn't understand that they all came stocked. I thought it was like a special deal.
You thought it was just your computer.
Just mine.
We forgot to take off the cool stuff.
Yeah. Somebody left this here for me. Yeah.
It's amazing. Somebody knew I would need Encarta 96 at some point, and so they just left all these discs here. That was Wikipedia before we had internet, by the way. Seriously, a lot of young people in the room have no idea what we're talking about. But
Nobody.
that's when we used to use computers by candlelight, and we'd walk to school barefoot in the snow. That's the point we're at. That's what I sound like or feel like. Forget about that. Where'd the idea for that video come from, though? It's so cool, so great, such a throwback.
Well, the creator is actually here today. Danny Ocon. Yeah.
A round of applause for Danny, because that's a great video.
Danny, what's up?
Shout out to Dan.
Yeah. We just kind of talked about creating this world of nostalgia that just kind of instantly strikes a chord with people. And also it's just pleasing because of its simplicity. So she just created this whole, like everything that I was telling, like hovercraft, all these things, like just utilizing one atmosphere to kind of complete the whole project. So we kind of like talked about the folders and the, like the trash can, there's like that sound and everything that would be familiar for people. So.
Which honestly is, like I said, brilliance in the simplicity, and it's harder to do than it sounds, especially now when I think everything's been mined for nostalgia. Like, there's a new Rocco Modern Life movie on Netflix. Like, everything's come back. So it's like for you guys to find that little piece of real estate and like put a flag in it and be like, this is going to be our thing. It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just think that there's something to be said for not thinking too hard, and it's a hard thing to do to carry out any story or lyric video, especially because we've seen it done 1,000 times, most videos, and I just liked the idea of it just held its ground. It didn't go anywhere else. So.
Well done. Congratulations
Way
on
to go,
that.
Danny.
I think that just dropped yesterday, right?
It sure did, yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And then this EP is going to be released into the wild on Friday, the 25th. We're so close.
So excited.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, what does that feel like? How do you feel going into a release when you're this close? It's almost there. The world's going to hear it. It doesn't belong to you anymore. How's that all feel?
Anxious. It makes me anxious. I think, I don't know, there's something that is addictive to me about the anticipation, and when I know that anticipation is about to come to its end, I love that feeling. It's addicting. So anxious, but also just so proud of these songs for a number of different reasons, and I think excited mostly.
This past summer, we saw This Is Better Parts 1 and 2 come out. And I know the writing process, I read about how that was deeply cathartic and helped you through in processing an emotionally complex and dark time, and how much like you sort of went through with that record, or those two pieces, those EPs. Coming out of that, did you had to take some time before jumping right into Smut, right? Or were you in writing mode? Did you just keep moving? Because it's not a lot of time since the summer to now. We've got more new music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at that point, like while wrapping the part 2 portion of that, I think for me at least, when I start that creative momentum, it just kind of keeps propelling me into another place creatively. Like a lot of times my thoughts will just speed up before I can even catch up. And so creatively, I just felt like I had a lot to say. And once I felt like I said it, I just didn't want to let go of that process, because it was something that literally led me to the end of a chapter of my life. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, let's have some fun now. And that's how this whole Smut EP came about. It was just kind of like, I didn't really want to have any limits in the studio, and I just didn't want to write any more sad pop songs at the time, because that's how it all started. I was just kind of found this new voice that I had through trying to write for other people, but I just felt so attached to the songs. So I feel like Smut was just kind of a really nice way for me to end that chapter altogether and put a nice, cute little bow on it, you know?
Did you find, because Smut is kind of the other side of the spectrum, right, where it's born from this freedom and independence, whereas This Is Better, you were processing grieving and loss and heartbreak and all these different things, so you're on two different ends, right? Was there something like a transferable skill or an experience that came from writing the sad stuff that helped or informed or colored the experience when you were writing the positive stuff?
A transformative skill, like meaning literally, obviously. I think during the process of actually like recording vocals for parts 1 and part 2 of the last EPs, I realized that a lot of times in the studio, I'll be like, oh, can we try this on whatever instrument? And a lot of times it just wouldn't satisfy, because I heard something else in my head. And so I would basically imitate it vocally. And a lot of those times I ended up with sounds that I just couldn't let go of. And so through that process, I just started sampling everything. As ridiculous as it looked, like a lot of just crazy vocal, like me imitating like a toy or something, you know, and it just became this consistent thread throughout this whole process. And it just gave me like a confidence. I'm going to do, if I'm not satisfied, I'm going to do it myself, basically.
Is that kind of where, I think like at the tail end of the EP, we sort of hear you like just sort of vocalizing the instrumentals at the end of Important. Yeah. Was that just like a scratch track that was fun and you guys kept in there? Is that what that was? I always
like to keep something that's real and goofy. Whether it's like a count off that I messed up on. I just think that there's just something that I feel like grounds it a little bit if the song is, you know, it could be taken too seriously. I like something that lifts it off the ground just
and it
a little
also
bit.
It humanizes it, and it sort of takes it out of this vacuum where if it's completely perfect end to end, it sort of takes it out of a space and puts it in a weird place. Whereas by doing those things, this is a person that I'm listening to who's about to record a session, and I can kind of see you in the zone and like doing that. It's a really fun thing.
Yeah, songwriters, you know, we're not serious. We can be fun, you know.
Where does that process begin for you? Are you a big voice memos person? How do you have to go to a certain room or space to write? How does that work for you?
Voice memos for sure. I get to the point a lot of times if I have a lot of time to myself, like driving, like when I lived in Texas, it was a lot of time spent in the car. And I would just have like even a phrase or like just some like 2 words that would just be like obsessively on a loop in my head that didn't really have a place in a melody. And so a lot of times while driving, I would just kind of start to form these songs. So a lot of voice memos in the car and then taking those things and then fleshing them out later in the studio, which is just a backbone to kind of stand on, is like writing entire songs in your head that don't necessarily have like a structure melodically yet, but you then take that and anything is possible. Like you can watch that become a full-fledged song.
Is there like a point or like a mile marker for you that you try to reach before bringing it to the studio? Like you want to have the idea this far along before I walk in with it to try and collaborate on it?
Yeah, most times actually it's
song?
No, I mean, yes, there are the like just like gems of songs that just kind of seem to come out of you very quickly, and it's so nice. It's like the best feeling. But a lot of times it'll just be a verse and a chorus, and then I can't really move past the chorus until I hear what it sounds like, you know.
You this has you teamed up with Aaron again. You guys worked on parts 1 and 2, and now you worked on this record as well. What brought you back to working with Aaron?
We're an unlikely pair, Aaron and I. Well, we met through a mutual friend who's also a record producer, and I had to record some edited vocals for this film that I scored, and met Aaron in Dallas, Texas, through the mutual friend. So he's just down for trying anything. And I think for me at that specific time, I was just looking to just listen to my own instinct and see what kind of what would come of this partnership. Like we just, he was working in commercials, and he just has such a good ear, and he is listening to what I'm saying, even though I don't always know exactly how to get there. He helps me get there mentally a lot of times, and I just really liked the partnership. It just felt like a partnership to me, and just directness. Like a lot of times when you're in the studio with a band, your own voice can kind of get drowned out, and I've never been disappointed with a record, but I was also just very curious of what it would be like to just work with one person. So
is that who's in the studio? Is it just you and Aaron? Just like the two of you?
Just me and Aaron, yeah.
Wow. And how long would a session go for, you guys just in there working?
At least 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, we keep it to a schedule for sure.
Yeah. Which
I think was helpful for me to just kind of like put it in gear. So, quick. We both work very quick. Yeah. So.
And so it's working.
It's working. Fast, yes.
Yeah. How do you know if it's just the two of you? How do you guys know when you're done? How do you know when it's all right? We got to stop tinkering with this. We've got to move on to this.
I think we both feel it mentally. Like you can kind of feel like the energy just being drained from a studio when you just know, like something will come of this song or melody, whatever it is that we just can't seem to get through. I just think that it's time to like come back to it. A lot of times your ears are just tired. I can't hear anything anymore. I don't know if this is good or if I'm just like listening to something on a loop endlessly I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of get numb to it after a while, and it's just like, I have no idea what this needs or what this is anymore. We've got to walk away. Yeah. Would you say that, like, how would you identify or like quantify like what it is that Aaron does for the sound in terms of if you put like Bad Baby or like an older track next to Small Talk or something? How do you know Aaron's on it? How do you hear his influence or his fingerprints?
A few different things. I think Aaron is really good at bringing color to an idea. Like if I'm like, oh, what if we chop this vocal up or sample this? Like we've used a ton of samples from my phone. And he just does a really good job of knowing what color to kind of paint it. And he now, like we've had so many, conversations or whatever, he's getting to the point where he knows where my car's headed. Like, and he wants to get, he'll just kind of like put an effect on something or chop it in a certain way that I'm like, yes, that's what it is. And then that ball just gets rolling, and it really is just like a ping pong kind of like conversation where we're just playing off of each other. And that is a really good way for me to work because I'm not too aware of self, and it then becomes a collaboration. We're both trying to make something that's really good.
Yeah. And it's really fun to listen to everything you guys have done together back to back and like straight through, because you can feel and hear that evolution. Was there a technique or a thing or a moment on this record where, you guys kind of push each other, or maybe Aaron pushed you out of your comfort zone to try something you haven't tried before, or an idea that you had to be sold on or something? Like, I think it's important in a collaboration to create to have those moments where you push each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron's really good about. I'm very. I can come across aggressive when I'm like passionate. I use my hands a lot, and like I just. And I think that Aaron just kind of like instinctively understands that I just want to like. I just speed ahead. My brain is just like light years ahead of my mouth sometimes, and I think that he is really good about calling me when like a lyric feels forced, when it's not working. I enjoy like just like there was a song in particular in this one that I got to a third verse and it just felt like, I don't know, a little precious. Yeah. I was even like not sold on it. It just felt precious, and he just kind of like stopped me and he was like, I'm not really sure about this, but I mean, I feel like as far as like instrumentation, like songwriting is like, that's my thing. So a lot of times I get egotistical and I'm like, no. Like I don't want to be told what to do. I just don't like it. But I think that you kind of have to remain like confident, but also open to the fact that the song maybe could be better. So I enjoy that push and pull of a collaboration.
Do you enjoy the process, especially when so much of this project kind of gets formed in the studio and between you two? Then you have to take it and sort of bring it to the stage and figure out how to play it live and what that's going to be like. Do you enjoy that part of the process of sort of?
No,
you don't.
No, I mean I do, but it's a good question because I've been racking my brain how to make a jump from like older stuff to Smut. Like, how do I jump from a song like Clementine, which is a very folk-ish song, to this? But I don't know that my brain needs to be there. I'm not sure. I really don't know. But it is something I think about. I know I'm going to have to fill that gap somehow, and I'll figure it out. I just gotta I have to be patient with myself, and I know when something is forced, but
Is it for you? Are you have to like figuring out like a tonal shift, like the vibe within the set, or just like logistically, like I need different tools to achieve this for both of these things?
Maybe both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, I think both. But I also know that like every record, I get to a point where I'm like I just feel the need or the desire to buy a bunch of new gear. Yeah. And I don't know that I really need to. Yeah. I do like the idea that I could just go on tour with a laptop, or I could go on tour with a guitar. I think that it's a good problem to have, but it is something that I maybe think about too much or overthink too much.
What's your most recent like gear, like splurge? Like you don't know that you really needed it, but you wanted it, so you bought it.
I mean, not music gear. Like it's all. I'm like, oh, those shoes though. It's like a car payment. Like, dude, I shouldn't.
Car payment isn't a splurge. It's kind of a necessity. That's been foisted on us as adults. We have to pay for these things. I really dig this EP. I'm excited for everyone else to hear it so I can like talk about it with people. It's so much fun, and like I was saying back there's certain tracks that have just been stuck in my head all week. It's this Friday it comes out. We're gonna do some audience questions in a second, but I also saw on Twitter tickets for you're doing something Saturday night in Brooklyn.
Saturday, yes. Baby's All Right. Yeah. I'm doing a release celebration. Gonna play all of the songs from Smut, actually, and some older stuff as well. That's the 26th. The Baby's All Right. Yeah.
People can get info. They follow you on Twitter. They can find out where the tickets are. You can
find it, yes. All the socials. Yeah.
All of the socials.
All of them.
Where do they follow you on all the socials?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
What do they type in to find you on Twitter?
Oh, say Jaffe. It's SAY.
Jaffe. Awesome. Well, congrats again on this. Kate, do we have some questions in the room? Perfect. I want to get at least two of them. We've got microphones out there. First one, I'm looking right here. Go for it.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
You kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but I was curious how you landed on the name Smut for your album. I think this is really interesting. I was wondering if there was like a light bulb moment for you.
That's a great question. I came to this new land, Smut. I was in the middle of recording like the second song for what I didn't know was going to be a record. I kind of landed on it, or rather it was given to me, because at this point I was sampling a bunch of stuff, and my girlfriend sent me a voicemail that was from her roommate, that her roommate just got randomly, and it was this, well, you'll hear it, you won't hear it now, but it's a voicemail where this woman was a stranger, asking whomever she thought she was calling, "Are you still reading Smut?" And this very, like, it just struck a chord with me because it sounded like an aunt that I had in Bonham, Texas, where I was like, is this my relative? And it just, I thought the word was so good. It was it just evokes a lot of material. And I like words that are just strong. And this one was kind of like, it's smutty, like it's smut. So I used it to cap off a whole period of time. Great question.
Great question. The title came before the album art? Or the EP art, rather?
Yes. I love a title before any work to show.
Kind of like a guiding light, yeah. Okay, can I do one more? I want to do one more question. Microphone. Come on down.
Hi.
Hi.
So you were talking about how important a sense of play is to bring into when you're writing and performing music, which I see that naturally translate to live performance. But I was wondering, how do you bring that energy into the studio?
Ooh, I think in the studio, it's also a good question. I like your pants. I think that I feel like my fullest potential is reached in the studio. A lot of times in a live setting, I just have my own anxieties and insecurities that just naturally like leak into crevices that I'm like, no. And I don't like that feeling at all. I like the instant gratification that a studio can bring, that just, it's like an immediate confidence. Like you have an idea, you try something, and you're like, that's amazing. Now let's double it. Now let's triple it. There's just something instant that I just feel more alive in the studio. I do try to bottle it up and take it to a live performance, but it's just always going to be a different ballgame. They're two totally different worlds. Totally different. Yeah.
Great question and great pants. Well, thank you guys for being an awesome audience and hanging out with us for a little bit. Smut is out everywhere on Friday. People can listen to it. They can download it. They can enjoy it and love it. And then this Saturday, the 26th in Brooklyn, follow her on @Say Jaffe so you can find out where she's going to be at and celebrate the release of this fantastic piece of work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, man.
Thank
Hope
you
had a
so
good
much for
time.
having me. Yeah.
Anytime. Guys, make a ridiculous amount of noise. It's Sarah Jaffe right here.